This is lesson 34, decimal place value for course 1. So when you're looking at decimal place value, we're going to start, before we get into the full decimals, we're going to start with a standard number. So a standard number, an example is 1. 1 is a standard number. Basically, every number you write is a standard number as long as there is no small piece lower than 0. So as long as no fractions and there's no decimals, it's a standard number. Okay, so 1 is a standard number, 23 is a standard number, 2,456 is a standard number. All of those are standard numbers. Okay, and all of those have something in common. They all have an invisible decimal that is always there. We just don't write it. And the invisible decimal is here after the ones column. Okay, that decimal is always there. We almost never write it, but it is always there. So behind that decimal is what we're looking at today. So I'm going to give you a whole number to start with. Okay, that's in the ones column there. And then we have this decimal. Now, when you're saying decimal numbers, this decimal says and. Okay, this is the time that you start saying and in a number. So 2 and something. Okay, now we're only going to look at 3 decimal places after the decimal. This one is the tenths, hundredths, thousandths. Kind of makes it sound like you have a lisp. Okay, so we tenths, hundredths, thousandths. Now, when you're doing these numbers, you say the last number it lands on. Okay, so if I have a 1 in this column, it will say 2 and 1/10. Okay, if I had a 2 in this column and a 1 in this column, you say 2 and 12 hundredths. If I have a 3 in this column, I say 2 and 123 thousandths. So you always end with whatever is the last number in one of these places. Okay? You always end with that place value. Notice when there's something in the thousands, I don't say tenths, hundredths. I do not say 2 and 1/10, 203 thousandths. I just say 2 and 123 thousandths. I only say that last place value, whatever that one might be. Okay, so let's take a look at this like this. If you have the number, and I ask you, what place value is the 8 in? Well, the 8 is in the thousandths column. Okay, remember that at the end, that kind of makes it sound like a snake. That is the difference between thousand and thousandths. So this number is said 2 and 138 thousandths. Okay, what if I had this number? Okay, remember that 0 is still there to show you that nothing is there. This is 2 and 2 hundredths. Remember, you always say the last place value you have a number on. This is 2 and 2 hundredths. Not 2 and 20, 2 and 2 hundredths. Okay, if I switch those around and did this, I do not say this place value. Okay, you do not say place values that have zeros in them, because in the actual world, every place value you are not using has a 0 in it. We just don't write them because we're lazy, and we don't want to write 50 billion zeros every single time we write 2. So this is 2 and 2 tenths, not 20 hundredths, 2 and 2 tenths. One thing before we move on, just to notice and to point out, this is the ones column. Okay, that is the ones column. tenths, hundredths, thousandths, which means everything after the decimal is smaller than 1. We're looking at this in fractions wise, okay? These are all fractions of a whole. Ones are our whole. Everything over here, these are wholes, okay? Those are whole numbers. They are full numbers, full pieces. These are pieces of something. Just like in a fraction, when we look at it and we say, well, this is a whole, and the whole has been split into 2 pieces and we're only looking at 1 piece, okay? This is less than 1. These are all less than 1. Okay, this one as tenths is something that's been split into 10 pieces. This as hundredths is something that's been split into 100 pieces. And this as thousandths is something that's been split into 1,000 pieces. Okay, they're all less than 1. That is lesson 34, decimal place value.